In today's society, hair is very important to a woman. When it comes to Black women, hair can be a lot of different things. In the US, Black women's hair has been known to cause a lot of attention and be a topic of not only beauty but the mental state of Black women. Historically, our hair has been intricate and diverse all over the continent in ancient times and even up till today. No matter which culture a Black person comes from, through the diaspora, our hair means a lot to us. In today's podcast/video, I'm going to be talking about why we should stop shaming Black women over their hair. Well, we should stop shaming Black people over their hair, period. But whether you're natural or textured, straightened, wearing a weave, or bald, it is your choice. With that being said, let's get into the history of Black hair. Before colonization took place, hair was and still is a very important part of our culture. Your hairstyle determined your social status and identity in many different African tribes. A lot of this information I got is through Google searches and also other videos that I saw on YouTube. I would like to shout out Chume Hair Crush. This girl went off on her research when it came to this. And also I would like to shout out Home Team History, who also went off on their research. But like I said, hairstyle determines social status. There was weaving used, as well as animal wool and animal fat to shape the hairstyles. So, while all this is happening with different hairstyles, when colonization took place, a lot of the captors used shaming tactics to strip African people of their pride and identity. So this comes into account the shunning of African beauty standards in society. A lot of people, when they were brought over to various different countries through colonization, their captors would refer to their hair as wool, try to make them feel less than, and also they finished it off by shaving their hair bald. So even though they shaved their head bald, there were a lot of different cultures that shaved their head in Africa. Particularly the warrior women shaved their head in Africa. And also shaved head happened in Egypt. Outside of shaving the hair, there were a myriad of other body politics used to create shame and strip the identity, which is the shaming of African features, darker skin, bigger nose, lips, body type, the curvier type of women with curvier features, that was also shunned and shamed. And they corrupted Africa's beauty standards in order to gain dominance and control over a people. So around the 1700s, a lot of Black women began to reclaim their identity and start to do their hair. They started doing their hair in intricate styles, just to get a sense of who they are back. But this drew in a lot of negative attention from their white counterparts. So then in 1789, the Tignon laws were passed. This law affected Black women, period. So from there, this law required that Black women tie their hair up so it wouldn't be shown because it was too much of a distraction, is what they claimed. So women began to wear scarves, and from there, their scarves were put in elegant patterns, They tied their scarves in different shapes. They got different elegant fabrics with patterns and stuff, and they had intricate designs. And it still came out beautiful, and it still drew the attention and eyes of people. Because of this, in the 1800s, this is when they started the human zoos, which is a whole other topic outside of just hair alone. They would take a lot of black people and people of color, period, and display them as oddities of humanity. So this includes women with intricate hair, women with intricate scarves. These are black women. Women with shapelier bodies. There was this one woman, I forget what her name is. I have to do the research, but she was a woman from Africa, and she was very shapely, and they used to prod and poke at her body and put her body on display in the human zoos because of her curvier shape. And they also, with people who had very close to Africanoid features, they also would put them in human zoos and make them oddities of society. So, like I said, that's a whole nother topic. I'm going to come back to that on a different day. But after slavery ended in 1865, black women had to assimilate to white standards of beauty in order to get a job and achieve upward mobility, which comes in the hot combs. They start straightening their hair with the hot combs, or you get loose spiral curls. And of course, women were also wearing weaves. But then Madam C.J. Walker came, and she capitalized and made a movement for women and their hair types and their hairstyles and textures around the time. So before I talked about how some slaves were brought over and their heads were shaved in order to strip them from identity and cause shame for them appreciating their culture. Well, I also got some other sources. I didn't do Google Scholar. I did Wikipedia, I did Encyclopedia, and I did www.egyptabout.com. Maybe next time I'll do Google Scholar. I didn't really think about it, but I also want to go back to the bald thing, because baldness also has a significance in African culture. Some of the warrior women, the Duhimi women, I think that's what they're called. They're making a movie about it. I think it's maybe like an offset of the Black Panther movie, maybe. These women were warrior women. They shaved their head to show their symbol of strength. But yeah, that movie is coming out, and I'm so interested to see what they're gonna do with the tales that they tell about the tales that they tell about the Duhimi women. I'm interested to see what they do with that. But also, I came across some more information about ancient Egypt. So, in ancient Egyptians used to shave their heads and shave hair from their bodies to prevent themselves from getting lice or termites, because having hair was seen as unclean in Egypt. Because of the hotter climates, it's easier to attract pests and lice and termites and stuff like that. So they were hairless. It was mainly the nobles and the priests that were hairless, but there were also common people that shaved all their hair off too. So, because of this, a lot of Egyptians wore wigs. And the earliest Egyptian wigs were seen about 2700 BCE. There was straight human hair that was used amongst the higher status people. They used straight human hair that they brought or traded amongst other people. But like I said, that was for people who had money. There were cheaper knockoff versions, but those were made out of palm leaf fibers and wool, because common people couldn't afford human hair. Nefertiti also introduced curly wigs after seeing the hairstyles of the Nubian people. So Nefertiti used to wear the headdress and curly wigs. So again, I got some more information from Chime Hair Crush. She talks about the history of weaves. Like I said, this girl went off on her research. She talks about Egypt being the first civilization to wear weaves. They brought, traded, and sold human hair, animal wool, animal fat, and vegetable fiber. And they used a variety of tactics to dye the hair and put ornaments and trinkets in their hair. And I just think about this because it's so significant. Like, in many states in the U.S., mainly in the South, there are even intricate hairstyles that are honored and showcased annually at what you would call a hair show. Monique, the comedian and actress, started a movie about this event called Hair Show. I think this was around 2003, 2004 the movie came out. Yeah, so the hairstylist in ancient Africa was revered and held in high esteem, and styling was a social event. And I think about even today, like in beauty salons and barbershops, the stylist is still respected. And this is also often a place that people of color go and socialize while they're getting their hair done, you know? So through all this, I just been watching videos of people talk about the history of black hair, and I also watched a few videos on the hair show, and it's just interesting seeing the duality between ancient hairstyles throughout the continent and then today, like the hairstyles shown at the hair show. Even though we're in America, it's very similar, like the intricacies and just being so creative with your hair that it's like, wow, I don't even know how they did that. Like, it's interesting to see, you know? So I also watched a video from Kiki Palmer talking about black hair history. This was on the Strawn, Sarah, and Kiki channel. She gives a rundown of the history of black hair, and then she talks about the Crown Act, which, if you guys don't know, the Crown Act was passed in California probably around very recently, maybe like 2017, 2018. They passed the Crown Act, which made it illegal for a place of employment to discriminate against an employee because of how their hair happens to be. And I feel like a lot of other people should follow California's suit, because when it comes to black people, we've had so much stress in this society about what we do with our hair. You wear your hair natural, people talk about how they don't like the natural hair. I mean, like I said, it's not like that now today. I feel like the Good Hair movie did help with the appreciation of natural hair in modern times. But at the same token, I feel like it demonized people who wanted to straighten their hair and wear weaves. I don't think we should demonize one or the other, because at the end of the day, those are both something that's a part of black culture and black history. Weaves, straightened hair is just as much a part of our culture as having your natural hair with your puffs and your braids and your locks, all a part of our culture. Also, when it comes to locks, I think I was watching Home Team History channel, and he was talking about the warrior men who grew their hair out and it formed locks, and that's where the term dreadlocks came from, because if you ran across them, it could be dreadful. I know that sounds weird, but that's where it came from. But they were formidable warriors who protected kingdoms in Africa. You know, I just think about all of this stuff. And yeah, like I lost my earlier point, but Black people have been shamed ever since we willingly and unwillingly left Africa. You know? And society does so much to try to shame Black people for everything, but particularly our hair and our skin and our body, things that we really, like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want us to do? Because when we did try to assimilate, yeah, we try to assimilate, but then people go on to say stuff like, oh, you have a mental illness because you're wearing straight hair, or you don't love your blackness because you're wearing straight hair. Society forces us to assimilate, and sometimes the straight hair is cute, and it's like, you know what, if I'm gonna be wearing the straight hair, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna slay, and I'm gonna look cute. So stop shaming each other for your hair. Whether you want to walk around with your natural curls and your afro puff, go ahead, power to you. You want to walk around with braids and dreadlocks, go for it. You want to put on a straight wig or straighten your hair and color your hair, go for it. Because as far as I can see, we've always been diverse with our hairstyles.